I'm joined here by Mark Henry, All Elite Wrestling on-air personality, talent scout. You do a little bit of everything in your career. But the reason that we're here talking is we've been doing, this is the third year, it's our best for the business. Instead of like a traditional year-end award, it's more, a celebration of some of the positives that are going on overall in professional wrestling. And I really thought AEW demonstrated that in many ways throughout the year. And number one, I'll mention just establishing itself as being a free agent destination. I think no bigger example than CM Punk coming back to wrestling. Nobody saw that coming. I think once you found out where his head was at and how it happened, it makes a lot more sense. But can you just talk as far as being somebody yourself who came over as a free agent, and many people considered you a lifer in WWE, like never thought you would ever leave, but just how your perception of AEW's changed in the past year and what you think other talent are, what they're seeing in the company that maybe you see yourself?
Well, I think the number one thing that they're seeing is growth. They're seeing that there is another place that you can go and practice your craft and prove your worthiness. Because, there's a lot of guys that have had very minimal success with WWE based on size, based on look, based on preferences. There's a lot of factors that make you desirable or undesirable to someone in any case. But nonetheless, AEW has produced another place where you can come and prove your worthiness. And I think a lot of people want that opportunity to come and prove themselves, that just because the WWE didn't find me attractive, that I'm not a beautiful talent. The next thing is AEW has a different style, not just in the ring wrestling, but entertainment-wise. There's more of a focus on the individual getting themselves over and being able to go out and do what they feel like is their best qualities and best attributes, where you're steered in other places to do what they would have you do, or you would represent the companies the way that they would have you do it, rather than have a say-so and ownership and partnership, true partnership in the development. Also, the people are hungry and they have a thirst for knowledge. There are some people that rise to the top and you can't tell them nothing. That's not allowed at AEW. Everybody, us old folks included. I learn something new every day from these young guys and girls, and they get to learn from me. So it's an equal trade-off. And I think that's just a beautiful thing. And once you come in, you feel that that openness to ideas and the openness to a different way. It's hard to leave.
Now, one thing that I did want to ask you about, I have talked to Paul White about a similar thing, was the transition to broadcasting. He had to learn to tell a story as a broadcaster, not to tell it as a wrestler. Is that something that you've had to adjust to? Like, have you noticed yourself having an easy transition? Like, what's that been like, just working on
it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy at all, because what you see Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross and Excalibur and Taz do on a day-to-day basis is very difficult. because in your mind, you see something, you go, wow, that was an amazing top wrist lock transition into a reversal, into a headlock. Like, we've done it so many times as talents, but you never had to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get used to saying it, it becomes easier. But it's very difficult to stand there and call a match and try to be entertaining and say something glib and colorful at the same time.
One area you were brought in for, it was touted when you signed earlier this year, you were going to serve as a scout for AEW, and it really feels like one of the company's strengths is having almost like a dedicated developmental system where it's not in the traditional sense, but having Dark, having Elevation, and then you have Rampage and Dynamite. It feels like you can work your way up, still get some television experience, but people are seeing it in a huge, a much larger audience has access to see it through YouTube and TNT. How has that benefited the company instead of trying to establish a training school and, just throwing them into the deep end, so to speak, with just putting them on TV, putting them on the internet right away?
Well, there's some people that still are in training programs and training schools. And Sean Dean does a really good job.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that there wasn't. Like, I know there's the factory and there's still schools, but I just meant as far as like having like AEW is a new program, a new brand, and there's 4 established shows that people can watch and sort of see the growth of all of these performers. It's really a unique
situation. I knew what you meant.
Okay.
I was just educating you.
Okay.
That there are people that are still training and developing and learning the basics, not just the finer nuances of pro wrestling, complexity that it takes to be a CM Punk, a MJF, a Bryan Danielson. Like there's a to be an Adam Page is is very difficult, and it takes time to do that. Dark and Elevation gives people a chance to put into action what they're learning at the schools, what they're learning in doing the indie shows, which they're allowed to do. And like I was saying, Captain Sean Dean does a good job because he is the boots on the ground booker of the indie talent and the people that are in the schools. And just because you look like you're ready does not mean you're ready. I'm the sounding board for him. I could suggest, hey, I looked at this film. This person needs this fixed and that fixed, and then they'll be fine. Like that's my role, is to assist in anything that needs help with the company. Anything. I'll pick up trash.
You certainly had your fingerprints on a lot of stuff this year. I already mentioned, we could see you on Rampage every week with the training program, but also the community outreach program. How do you feel like having that established very early on has helped AEW not only establish, its place in the wrestling world, but, just doing some good in a variety of ways? It's not always just one, it's not always just one area they're helping. It's always like a different charity every time. I know I'll say from personal experience, I saw Cody did a book drive in Philadelphia, and the line was like, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring a book. Like, I put my book down, and then I couldn't even get to the table to put the book down because the line wrapped around the building.
It's a beautiful thing. We're like life. If you just pick the people and the organizations that already have a great following, then you're I call that front running. That's where you go in, and the Susan B. Colemans and the the bigger organizations, Make-A-Wish, and they're a functioning, well-oiled machine. But what about the little guy? What about the organizations that are geared towards equal rights? What about the reading and educational programs? What about the kids that go to after-school programs and they don't have food? Like, we reach out to everyone and we allow everyone in our company, not just the talent, but everyone can be a part of AEW community. It's a concept that I thought would work. I've suggested it many times other places, and I guess if there's other people that are not going to want you to come and stand above the work that they do, but I'm fine with that. I'm getting my opportunity to do what I feel like is a wonderful thing. And Thunder Rosa, there's been a few charities that are personal charities that she worked with coming up from high school to now. Hey, let's do it. Nobody gets turned away. And, like we Wounded Warriors, like, I've always loved anything dealing with our military. The Special Olympics and other organizations that highlight people with autism. We've the Starlight Starbrights, the Culture City, the world of acclimating people to be able to come to a AEW show, and they have sensory issues. So like, there anything and everything we've done, man. We've gone and spoke to after school programs where it was just one guy that called and said, "Hey man, I have these 20 kids I work with. We were in Indy recently. We got this girls group where we teach these young women how to be women. Some of them never bounced a checkbook before. Mm-hmm. They've never applied for anything outside of what they did with their parents. Now they get to learn how to do stuff as individuals. Like, we will allow everything. And I feel like that's the biggest plus that we could do to a community, because we don't just go in and take money from tickets and concessions and parking. Like, we don't just go in and take, we give on our way out. So when we come back, the people that come to our shows is they like, man, last time we were here, these people did this, and more people come. And we want our people that come to our shows to have a good time. So we're able to pull people out of the crowd into the breezeways and hallways and catacombs in the underbelly of the arena and say hi and thank you for coming. It's a novel concept, but it works.
Yeah, I mentioned the book drive that was in Philly, but there was a school supply drive not too long ago. I know you mentioned Thunder Rosa. She just did one for an abused women's shelter, and then her Mission Pro did one for Salvation Army. But there's all of these different charitable efforts where, like you said, it's not just going to one group or not going to an established group. It's going to people that need some help and can benefit.
People need help.
Yeah, benefit from the spotlight of the company coming in, and it's really done some wonders.
And all the stuff is not publicized. Mm-hmm. We're not doing it because we want a pat on the back. We're doing it because it needs to be done. Somebody needs to do it. And we're in a lot of places enough that we can actually get stuff done without people having to go through red tape. And I've heard it at least 10 times. Like, why are y'all doing this? Be like, why not? Mm-hmm. Like, you needed the help, right? You posted this on the page. We saw this on social media. We read. We're interested in stuff, and we try to help out. It's just that easy.
I couldn't put it any better. Why not? Like, somebody needs help, why not? That's really good to hear. That you mentioned that not all of it's publicized, but if anybody watching or reading this wants more information, it's allelitewrestling.com has a AEW community subsection. So you can get that at allelitewrestling.com/AEW-community and check out what's going on. If they have anything going on at a live event that is in your area, or you just want to know what they're up to, it's a really good way to catch up on that. One thing I did want to talk about is maintaining consistency. You found a home on TNT. Now we're moving towards talking about moving towards TBS. How important has that relationship been, as far as not only, I know fans want to be like, oh yeah, wrestling's back on Turner, and that's great, it's familiar, it's, you know, the nostalgic element, but how much has that helped AEW establish themselves as a television wrestling brand, and just, you know, showing people that it's a really quality product? And not only, I won't get into like ratings and demos and none of that, but you know, just having a home on TNT and now moving to TBS, you know, how has that helped AEW grow each year?
It's good having a home and having a home field, and being on TNT and now being on TBS is a big plus because it's major cable network programming. But it's not just where you perform, it is the fact that the level that you perform and the energy and the excitement which is brought to the network. AEW is bringing the best brand of pro wrestling to cable television. And you don't want to talk about the ratings and the demos and all of that, but we're up there. We've been number one, you know, man, I'm losing count now. How many weeks? At one point, it was 7 or 8 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing really, really well. And having a big time cable home is valuable in the sense that you see how hard it is for other companies to survive when they don't have a cable home where you have accessible programming like Dynamite and Rampage. And we advertise on Dynamite and Rampage that you can go to YouTube and see Elevation and Dark and see the future of what AEW is going to be. And so it's really AEW that's getting the job done. You know, we love the support of Time Warner Media and the network. Like, that is so special and it's so good. But the lifeblood is the talent and the performances that our talent are putting on. They're competitive. They want to be the main event. They want to be the best wrestler in the company. They want to be listed as a Hall of Fame caliber wrestler, and they want to make money, and they want to be stars. When you're passionate and hungry, you can't lose. And Time Warner and TNT and TBS, they would say the same thing about us. They love having us as much as we love having them.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot to look forward to. January 5th is the big move. I normally ask you, you know, what you're looking forward to most in 2022, but based on Friday's news, I would say it's the Owen Hart Cup, if I'm being fair. So you had the announcement on Busted Open Radio, and then we found out a little bit more later that night. But now that that's sort of out there, you know, can you just talk a little bit more about how special it is that, you know, Owen's legacy is finally being recognized in that way, and just being able to have not just one tournament, but two tournaments to celebrate what he means to the wrestling business and what he means to all of the talent that are going to, hopefully be announced soon in the tournament.
One tournament wouldn't have been enough. Owen, special guy. He added a levity and education to pro wrestling and was a really good wrestler. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about Owen. Never. And he said, Mark, that's who you want to be. He mentored me. He rode with me. And he taught me because he saw potential in me. That's why I do what I do. I see potential in people and I try to bring it out because that's the way I was taught. And Owen is very responsible for that. And if it wouldn't have been for him, I probably would have got kicked out of the business because I was not having a good go before Owen. And this tournament is blessed by his wife, Martha, and his family. And she did not want Owen's name to be marred or to be minimalized just to make money. If there's monies that's going to be raised for charitable things, it should go to where the family deems it go. And I'm very happy that the family found Tony Khan and that Tony Khan found the Hart family, because it was near and dear to my heart. And it was even a bigger plus for me joining the company and knowing that that was a possibility.
Yeah, it was really great to see. I know over the years you've shared what he meant to you, and then not only finding out that there was the relationship, there's merchandise, there's talk about being in the video games and action figures, but now having a tournament and having that be an annual thing, just it feels good for my generation of fans because we know what he was to us. You shared what he is to you, and then now there's this whole other generation that's going to be able to find out what he, like it's a generational thing. It's really I think that's the really cool takeaway, that everybody has their own memory of him, or they can find new ones and discover this whole other part of wrestling they didn't really know about before. So
you ever play a joke with one of your friends?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the everyday thing for Owen. And every time that I hear somebody get a joke played on them, I get to think about Owen. It's an Owen to me, to see somebody get ribbed, joked with. As long as Owen never was painful and hurtful. Like he just wanted everybody to get a good laugh and realize that, you gotta enjoy this. Like there's so much time in between. You need to enjoy it. And true wrestling fans love Owen because they smiled and laughed when they hear his name. And it wasn't laughing at you, it was laughing with. And that's the important thing in our business, is to latch on to people that care and have the same views as you. And I think that's why the pro wrestling world is so connected together, is because we all know that we're all fans at the end of the day.
Yeah. I wanted to say thank you for taking the time to do this with me. I kind of mentioned.
Oh, you're welcome.
I kind of mentioned this to John when I asked about it, but I'll share it with you. You have a unique perspective in that you're a wrestler, a broadcaster. I talked about your behind the scenes work, but you've kind of in a way also been there day one with AEW, because I remember this is one of my favorite memories about the company. It was when we were all doing media at Double or Nothing in Las Vegas, and you were working at the time with Busted Open Radio. But I remember, you were like, oh, let me get through there. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I look and I'm like, I look up. I'm like, okay, you can go through. And
and I remember that. And I wanted to ask about diversity, because that's an important thing in our world today. It's not important to someone that has always been in power or been at the forefront, but just the relationship of the chief branding officer, and one of the greatest talents in a VP, Cody Rhodes, them being married and now having a child together, preaches diversity. And being able to get along and see stuff from different perspectives, but still realize that the whole focus is for us all to work together. And that's something that I find the most at AEW is, how the people in the office and the people in merchandising and the security and the grips and the crew, and how everybody knows each other. One, like, I know the cameramen's names, and I tell the young people, hey, go introduce yourself to the camera guys. Go introduce yourself to the guys that's doing the lighting and the rigging. Go introduce yourself to the people that are doing the sound. Like, we're family. Like, that's something that I feel like is a taught thing. And if I don't do that, then I'm doing the business a disservice. And we moving right along, man. We're doing good.
Absolutely. Moving on towards 2022. January
Can't
5th
wait.
January 5th is coming up, but once again, I want to just say not only thank you for your time, but just AEW is doing a lot of things right. I mentioned from being a free agent destination to building talent the right way. People get to see it along the way. And I appreciate sharing your personal memories of Owen, and looking forward to seeing that video that Tony mentioned the other day that fans are going to get to see. I know there's some footage that Rocky Romero helped out with, but a lot to look forward to this year. And
yeah, it's going to be a big year. Big year. As big as the things have been already this year with Punk and Danielson and Cole, people coming to AEW, and the emergence of all of the homegrown talent, 22 is going to be even more spectacular.